James Corbett of CorbettReport.com with your Sunday update for this 22nd day of May 2011. And now for the real news. The balkanization of the world's population by the global power elite who benefit from all violent resistance continued apace this week as protests against governmental oppression and economic austerity spread throughout the world. In Spain, citizens utilizing internet and social networking technologies have created a mass protest movement that has drawn tens of thousands to occupy town squares across the country. The protests, known as M15, have so far sprung up in Madrid, Valencia, Seville, Barcelona, and numerous other towns. The protests have been peaceful and not centered along traditional party lines, so corporate-controlled media has had difficulty marginalizing the movement as a ragtag collection of youth upset about unemployment. On the movement's website, there is a manifesto that states, in part, "We are ordinary people. We are like you. People who get up every morning to study, work, or find a job. People who have family and friends. People who work hard every day to provide a better future for those around us. Some of us consider ourselves progressive, others conservative. Some of us are believers, some not. Some of us have clearly defined ideologies, others are apolitical, but we are all concerned and angry about the political, economic, and social outlook which we see around us. Corruption among politicians, businessmen, bankers, leaving us helpless without a voice. This situation has become normal, a daily suffering without hope. But if we join forces, we can change it." Now, solidarity protests have sprung up around the globe as disgruntled citizens in numerous countries find themselves similarly fed up with the political status quo. In the Ukraine, the protests were sparked by poor economic conditions.
The Day of Anger brought together people from all over Ukraine, average citizens, representatives of non-governmental organizations and opposition politicians, and gathered in front of the Ukrainian parliament in the capital Kyiv to air their grievance. They are protesting against rising prices and what they call the failure of the government's economic policies and judicial lawlessness.
I'm ready for the revolution, but it's not me who has to initiate it. The young generation has to remove the authorities who are leading the country in the wrong direction.
Ukrainian polls show that the support of the incumbent Ukrainian authorities is declining rapidly. 49% of Ukrainians do not support President Viktor Yanukovych. According to the polls, the Prime Minister has the full support of only 5% of Ukrainians.
In Turkey, ethnic Kurds rioted over the killing of 12 members of the Kurdistan Workers' Party by Turkish security forces.
Doğu Bayazıt in eastern Turkey. These Kurdish protesters are angry over the killing of various members of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK. The rebels were trying to cross into the country from northern Iraq when they were allegedly killed by Turkish security forces. Their deaths has angered many people across the Kurdish-dominated region. Similar scenes in Cizre. And Diyarbakir. Thousands more turned out in Diyarbakir, the largest city in southern Turkey, to protest against the killings.
In Ireland, Republicans have clashed with police in protest of Queen Elizabeth's first visit to the Irish Republic. The Queen is the first British monarch to visit the country since it broke away from British subjugation in the Irish struggle for independence.
Hundreds of protesters fought with police as they tried to tear down the steel barriers lining the streets their forefathers had fought to liberate. Flares and explosives were hurled at police. As officers moved in and arrested 21 people.
The security operation for this visit is the largest in Ireland's history. More than 10,000 police and troops line the streets, while these steel barriers stretch for kilometres.
For many, this is as close as they would get to the Queen's bullet and bomb-proof four-wheel drive.
She's not welcome here. Go home.
In the US, hundreds of protesters braved inclement weather to demonstrate outside of JP Morgan's annual meeting in Columbus, Ohio. Those in attendance were upset over JP Morgan's illegal foreclosure practices, including instances in which contractors illegally broke into people's homes to change locks, despite the fact that the houses in question were not in foreclosure. Despite engaging in peaceful and lawful demonstrations, several of the attendees were maced by police, including several elderly citizens. In Indiana, meanwhile, Stephen Skolnick is organizing a rally to protest the recent state Supreme Court decision overturning the Fourth Amendment and allowing police officers to enter any home at any time without a warrant or even a reason for entry.
Now, I understand you weren't really politically active before this. This is a first for you.
I have very little political involvement, but I'm a very concerned citizen. I heard about this, and it really alarmed me. And so I decided to see what I could do about it. I didn't see anything going on. I didn't see any great deal of public outcry about this, and so I decided to see if I could fix that.
Well, you are the outcry, and the rally is next Wednesday. Very excited about that. If you wanted to plug that, you got a Facebook event you're organizing around this. What are you hoping to achieve specifically with this event?
Well, really, we're just trying to draw attention to the issue, and I think in that respect, we've already succeeded a great deal. We've got over, 800 people who have RSVP'd yes to this, and we've got 9,000 more invited, and, that number is just going to keep blowing up over the course of the next week.
As protest movements gain momentum across the globe, governments who feel threatened by citizens refusing to bow down to their supposed authority have now launched counterstrikes in the information war by attempting to censor the free flow of online information that makes these movements possible. In the latest example of governmental collusion with the big corporations that control a greater and greater percentage of the internet, Google-owned YouTube has complied with a request from the UK government to take down a video of a group of citizens operating under the name Lawful Rebellion, who seized a Birkenhead County court and used their guaranteed liberties under the Magna Carta to arrest the judge and claim the court for the people. Although still visible to the outside world, when viewers in the UK attempt to watch the video, they see a message informing them that this content is not available in order to comply with local laws in certain countries. According to Google's own transparency report, the majority of removal requests in most countries are fully or partially complied with. This news comes on the heels of this month's Orwellian pre-crime arrests in the UK, where dozens of citizens were arrested in advance of the royal wedding on the grounds that they might have been planning to protest the future wedding. Now, concerned citizens of all party affiliations, all ideologies, all creeds, all races, and all stripes are uniting to engage in a conversation about the best and most effective way to re-commandeer the supposedly public institutions that have long since been bought and paid for by the global political power players. One of the activists arrested in these recent UK pre-crime arrests, Charlie Veitch, spoke on this issue at the May 5th meeting of the Defend the Right to Protest movement.
I don't want to sound dramatic or annoyed or angry or full of rage, but I am, so that's how it's going to come out. But what we're seeing now, to be optimistic, just to kind of say that this is a battle for hearts and minds, there's an official royal wedding channel on YouTube, and the day after the wedding, they were ranked 10th in terms of the most viewed on YouTube, and my channel was ranked 9th. And as the MP said, what government's interested in is continuity of government. I believe all governments are liars and murderers, and they are a parasite, so of course they have a rational, machine-like desire to tell their thug class, which are the police, and big shout out to the undercover police here as well. They have a very rational way that they want to stifle dissent, but I will tell you something. The Arab Spring revolutions have already come to Great Britain. We are standing in solidarity with normal human beings all over the world which are throwing off the shackles of oppression, tyranny, ignorance and stupidity which are fed to us by the mainstream media, with a few small examples. And I'd like to also give a shout out to Shiv from The Guardian for actually writing the truth in a big article as well. So we are actually winning, guys. Don't ever forget we are on the winning side. We have the universe on our side. We have the moral high ground.
Now, please go to CorbettReport.com to download episode 187 of the Corbett Report podcast, Crashes of Convenience, KAL-007, where we take a look at the mysterious Soviet shoot-down of a Korean airline passenger jet and the anti-NWO congressman who was on board.